Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Sports Speak. Tim Moore is busy on a broadcasting assignment in Connecticut today, so I'm here, Eddie Kalegi, joined by Rahil Jaiswal once again, and we'll be talking about everything going on in sports. Last weekend, the first real weekend where all four major sports were in action in such a long time. It was great to see it. Yeah, but we're going to have to start things off with NFL Week 1, and probably the top story, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady falling short against the Saints. A lot of people being very critical of Tom Brady, including his own coach, Bruce Arians. What do you make of Week 1 and what to expect from Tampa Bay going forwards?
Well, I mean, everyone's going to go at Tom Brady, obviously, just because of how much pressure he's under. But everyone, let's calm it down. It's Week 1, okay? There's still a long way to go. It's Week 1. Let's relax. We've seen Tom Brady with the Patriots get off to some slow starts where they start 2-2, 3-2, and then they end up winning the Super Bowl. So let's relax. Yes, I mean I've said it all season. I think the Buccaneers are a wild card team. I don't think they win the division from New Orleans, but now you don't know because remember, as we all know, Michael Thomas is not going to be on playing Monday Night Football. We don't know what the situation is with his ankle injury. And the Buccaneers defense looked good for the most part in Week 1. I know Tom Brady had two interceptions, but I mean you don't really rely on that happening again because of how good he is with the football. One of them was a miscommunication. The second one, of course, Janoris Jenkins with the interception. But I think the Buccaneers will be fine. New Orleans is obviously a tough test, even going to the Superdome without fans. So the Buccaneers will be fine. I mean, they just got to get the kinks worked out. I know Chris Godwin is now in concussion protocol, so that's another maybe issue. But I think they will be fine throughout the season. I just think it's some Week 1 issues, and they lost to a good team in New Orleans.
Yeah, you mentioned how it was just Week 1. I think a lot of people are forgetting for teams like Tampa, for the Colts, that had a lot of changeover in the offseason. They did not have any preseason
Yep.
games, to work things out. I know the starters don't play like all of the preseason, but they play a little bit. This is no
Mm-hmm.
opportunity whatsoever. Tampa Bay
Yeah.
is going to get into the groove, but it's going to take a couple of games. Going to switch it over to Sunday Night Football from Sunday. The Cowboys, a bit of a surprise because a lot of people kind of, they doubt Sean McVay, they doubt Jared Goff, but the Rams were able to pull it out at SoFi Stadium on Sunday night. And the Cowboys, just their offense, other than Ezekiel Elliott, was a little lackluster. Their defense was not the best. We know the NFC East. You never really have a
Yep.
world beater coming out of that division every year, but Dallas, and then we'll get to Philadelphia in a minute because that was a disaster. But Dallas, I thought they were going to do better against the Rams.
Yeah, so did I. But Eddie, who would have thought that Washington would be first place after Week 1?
Okay. As an
But
Eagles fan, it's so painful because I just got to get this off my chest. To lose to a team that doesn't even have a name, that, brand new coach, quarterback didn't really look too good in the games he started last year, new running back, just unbelievable. And the fact that they were up 17, in the first half, and then they lose. Once again, Carson Wentz. I had said in a group chat during the second quarter, I said, I'm enjoying it right now because I know at some point there's going to be a blown lead or an injury. Well, guess what? Both happened. Because now the Eagles are without 3 of their 4 defensive linemen. Fletcher Cox, just like all of last season, is the only defensive lineman that's healthy. And a 17-point lead, and they weren't even competitive at the end. Carson
no, they
Wentz
were not.
running back and forth, he can't get a good throw off. He fumbles the ball, and they lose by 10. That was a complete embarrassment. But you know what? Kudos to Washington because they played a good game. Anyways, back to you. Just had to get that off.
so with the Dallas Cowboys, but they're going to have a tough matchup versus Atlanta this week because they're also ravished with injuries. Leighton Vander Esch is out with a broken collarbone. Blake Jarwin, who's supposed to be the future tight end, is I think out for the season with an ACL injury. And that secondary is looking a little weak right now. They're defensive. I will say they might have gotten unlucky with the pass interference call, but you could argue that they shouldn't have had 3 points from the Goff interception because he was smacked over the head. But yeah, it was surprising. I think the Rams are going to be better than they were last season, but I still wouldn't trust them. Again, Week 1, but I don't know. I think this week will be a real tell to see where Dallas is offensively because Atlanta is a horrible defense. Atlanta got steamrolled by Seattle and Russell Wilson, who only missed 4 passes. So that'll be a real tell to see where the offense is at this point, because we all know the firepower they have with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke out of the backfield, who's looking like the old Ezekiel Elliott. I remember last year, he went through a little bit of lulls, some didn't really have a great season. So for that, I think this week will be more of a tell, but nevertheless a good start for the Rams to the season, especially considering the pressure on Jared Goff and Sean McVay this season.
Yeah, totally. So shifting gears now to the Patriots. They won against the Dolphins. Cam Newton almost tried to fight the whole team afterwards, but you know what? They got the win, 21-11. They're 1-0 in the Cam Newton era. I mean, it wasn't great. There were some mistakes, but he got 2 rushing touchdowns, threw the ball pretty well. The defense held Miami to 11 points. Do you think this is something that can continue for the Patriots in the next couple weeks?
I mean, again, Miami, they started Fitzpatrick, so I don't know. Holding them to 11 points is not that impressive when you have Fitzpatrick, but I mean, it's a good start for Cam Newton again. New system for Cam, new coaching with Belichick, so hasn't played a game for how long is it now? I think a year and a half, maybe, probably somewhere around there. So it was good to see him back in action. New England owns Miami, especially when they're in Foxborough, Massachusetts. But yeah, I mean, nevertheless it's a good start for the Patriots. We saw them last year. Their wins weren't pretty whatsoever. They were scrappy, but I think now that this is the way the New England team's going to be. It's not going to be those games where they win 35-10, 38-13. I think it's going to be, you're going to see a lot more scrappy games somewhere around this 21-11 scoreline. Cam did get the 2 rushing touchdowns, which is a really good sign for them now. Belichick and Josh McDaniels can utilize him in different ways because Tom Brady couldn't run, but now Cam has the ability to run. So they have a lot of different things they can do there. But I'm still worried because their wide receiver core is still extremely thin. We don't know if Julian Edelman will be as reliable as he has been in the past. So that's my one concern about them. The defense is good, but my one concern is just the wide receiver core right now is spread very thin.
Yeah, and I also wonder how well they can keep up with Buffalo. I'm very intrigued by what those matchups are going to be, but Buffalo completely dominated the Jets last week. I know it was the Jets, but still, the Bills are a good team, and Josh Allen is becoming one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Last thing on the NFL, last night, Thursday night football, Browns and Bengals. Cleveland, they survived. They got the win. It's a little closer than they probably would have hoped. But now Joe Burrow has lost 2 close games, but has done pretty good so far. What do you make so far of Joe Burrow's rookie season with no preseason?
I mean, it's considering there's no preseason, it's very good. I mean, first week 1, he leads them down the field. They get unlucky with a pass interference call, and then they miss the tying field goal to go to overtime. I mean, and yesterday you were just he was getting pummeled in the back. Every time he dropped back, there was someone coming at him. He can't throw the ball can't wait because there's just no time. So he's not going to be able to throw the ball more than 15 yards because the Bengals offensive line just don't let those plays develop. He took some real hard hits yesterday. I liked his toughness though. I like the resilience. We all know how smart of a quarterback he is and how resilient he is, coming from a place where he had to work for everything in Athens, Georgia. And, his whole journey before coming to LSU and having maybe the greatest season in college football history. So we know he's going to be great. But I mean, the offensive line, you just got to give him help. Also, the defense at the end, I know the Browns have maybe the best 1-2 punch, but the way they just ran the football down the field, the amount of missed tackles that defense had was just poor to see. And I think it's just a bad situation for him. He has AJ Green, but their defense is not great. They missed a lot of easy tackles. They don't really have an offensive line. He's now lost his starting tight end for the season. So it's a real tough situation for him. But he still played well last night. I thought it was a great game. But, it's a tough situation for him.
Yeah, and what makes matters worse is he still has 4 games against Pittsburgh and Baltimore, who have much better defenses than Cleveland and the Chargers. So those are going to be difficult for him, but solid start. Let's shift gears now to the NBA, where, The Lakers-Clippers series that everybody wanted to see did not happen because the Denver Nuggets won another Game 7, came back from down 3-1 for the second time this postseason, and are proving that they're for real and will be heading to the Western Conference Finals to face the Lakers. Before we preview that, though, we got to talk about the Clippers here. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were held to 0 points in the fourth quarter. Their leading scorer in Game 7 was Montrezl Harrell. I mean, at this point, the Clippers, it's been 50 years, and they have not even made it to the conference finals, let alone the NBA finals. They've never made it to the conference finals before in the West. I mean, what more do they have to do at this point? Because you thought that this was finally the team that could do it. Kawhi Leonard had just led the Raptors, who I'd argue had a much less talented roster, at least in the way it looked, than the Clippers. And he was able to lead them to a championship against a Warriors dynasty that, though injured, was still really good with Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Thompson for most of that series. And then, Paul George coming in, he'd been really good with Oklahoma City the last couple years, and he had recovered from that injury well. And you thought you had a nice supporting cast, Williams, Shamet, Harrell. And then you get beaten by Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and lose 3 straight games. You were up 3-1. You have supposedly this legendary coach in Doc Rivers, and now the Clippers are going home. And once again, now the Lakers fans can once again tout about how much better they are than the Clippers. So, I mean, what do you even make of this situation? And how do the Clippers even come back from this really tough defeat next year?
Well, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, this is the biggest choke job in NBA history. Like, let's be real here. You had a 16-point lead in Game 5. You had a 19-point lead in Game 6. And at one point in Game 7, they had a 12-point lead. And you blow all 3 of them. Kawhi Leonard shot 6 for 22 from the floor in Game 7. I didn't think they were going to win Game 7, but I at least thought Kawhi Leonard would show up. I mean, where was he? Where was Lou Williams the whole series? Where was Montrezl Harrell the whole series? I picked this team to win the championship because I thought that their bench would be great. Lou Williams was nowhere to be seen this whole series. Neither was Montrezl Harrell. I mean, where was the inner dog that they had? Where was the what Patrick Beverley said, the inner dog? Where was it? Where was it? Because after they went down by 9 at the end of 3, everyone's looking at the game thinking this is over because they look demoralized. And it came out later that they were struggling to play 3-minute shifts. If you have that inner dog in you, you should not be complaining about playing 3-minute shifts. You should be digging down deep and trying to find a way to win. That's what the greats do. They dig down deeper and they find ways to win even when they're tired. And the Clippers just completely folded under pressure. There's no way of putting it. They couldn't buy a shot late in the fourth quarter. I think their first field goal came with 5 minutes left. And, I mean, all credit to the Denver Nuggets for taking the opportunity. Nikola Jokic just dominated this series. They didn't have anyone that could match up against him. You couldn't stick Paul George on him. You couldn't stick Kawhi. You couldn't stick Montrez. You couldn't stick Lou Will on him. I mean, he had 12 points in Game 7, but he still dominated. Jamal Murray did a good job keeping the team afloat in the first half when it looked like the Clippers could pull away. But no mistake, this is the biggest choke job in NBA history. It's the biggest choke job in period. I mean, I don't know what else compares to this. You have 3 double-digit leads, up 3-1. You blow the lead in Game 5, fine. You can see that. You're up 3-1. You lose focus a bit. Game 6, you blow the lead. Game 6 and 7, you blow the lead. I don't know what to say. Doc Rivers, I don't think will be the coach at the end of the season. It's unfortunate to say because he's a great coach, but he's now blown 3-1 leads.
And yeah, that's the thing too. Doc Rivers, I know everybody says he's a great coach, but think about the number of series that he's blown before. Of course, the Clippers a few years ago against the Rockets. Of course, this right now. Think about also when he was with the Celtics, one of the years in the finals against the Lakers, that Game 7 where they were up by, I think, 16, and then they blew that. I mean, he's had a history of blowing leads when in a tough spot. And the fact that the players could not play more than 3 minutes without, needing a breather, that's not just a player's issue. That's a training issue. So that goes right to Doc Rivers. That goes to Steve Ballmer and to the general manager. And, you mentioned if Doc Rivers is out there on the coaching market, that would mean that, I'd say 5 of the coaches from the top 10 teams in the NBA would all get canned at the end of the year. No D'Antoni's out there, Billy Donovan, if Rivers is there, Brett Brown, and Nate McMillan. That's 5 really good coaches that are available
Yep.
So like it'll be interesting to see. But Nuggets moving on, facing off with the Lakers tonight in game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. I know they beat the Jazz. I know they beat the Clippers, but the Lakers with LeBron and AD is still just a different animal. What do you expect from the Nuggets in game 1? Remember, the Lakers have lost both of their game 1s already in this bubble, but they ended up pulling through in the series pretty easily. What do you expect tonight?
For game 1, I go with the Lakers. I mean, we saw the game 1 the Nuggets played against the Clippers after the game 7 in Utah with the short turnaround. They were gassed and they couldn't create their own shot. So I think it'll be similar like that. The Lakers, they should win this series. Anthony Davis can match up with Nikola Jokic, and I don't know. And again, I don't know if Jamal Murray is going to be able to keep up this hot streak he's having. I mean, I don't know. We'll see if the Lakers decide to play their 7-footers. They didn't play JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard in that Rockets series because of the small advantage, but they might want to. We'll see if they put them out there. It's going to be another tough series for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, I think this Lakers team is probably right now the runaway favorites for the championship. I wouldn't count Miami or Boston out, but I think the Lakers should win this series. I think they come out with fire in game 1. They're well rested again after dispatching Houston in 5. So for that reason, I think LeBron's going to have a big series this time because I think Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic will be a great matchup if they match up against each other, and that's going to open things up for LeBron. So I'd say the Lakers win their first game 1.
Yeah, and that's something to consider too, because if Jokic is on Davis, the Nuggets do not really have a wing presence on this team. Torrey Craig is not going to guard LeBron James. Let's just be honest here. So if Jokic is matched up with Davis, that allows LeBron to really try to exploit this Denver defense. But, think about it. The Nuggets have been in 2 holes already and overcome them. But LeBron does have a history of being able to close out things, except for that one blown 3-1 lead. But you know what? He's going to be all right. I want to move on to the East now because I'm going to be honest. I'm starting to jump on this Miami Heat bandwagon. I didn't know what to expect coming into the bubble. I thought they were going to have a close series with the Pacers. They blew them away. I thought the Bucks were going to beat them pretty easily. They almost swept them. And now they're up 2-0 against the Celtics. The Celtics are having heated altercations and throwing things in the locker room now down 2-0. And Miami, with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, is 2 games away from the NBA Finals. Nobody saw this coming, but Eric Spoelstra once again proving why he is such a great coach. Pat Riley once again orchestrating a great team with a mix of one superstar and Jimmy Butler. They don't need a big 3. It's Jimmy Butler. You've got the veteran presence in Dragic plus Crowder, a championship-winning player in the past in Iguodala, and then you throw in a couple of youngsters with Adebayo and Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn, and boom, you've got quite the team right there. And now the Heat up 2-0. Do you see them closing this out and moving on to the NBA Finals?
I don't know because you could easily make the argument Boston should have won games 1 and 2. I had Miami going to the conference finals, but I didn't see Boston blowing that 17-point lead last night. And you talk about how great their roster is. I mean, you look at Jimmy Butler. I mean, he's the superstar of this team, but he doesn't need to go out there and get 40, 45 points a night. He does is facilitate and plays defense. You saw the great defensive plays at the end of the game last night, which saved them because Boston was going on a run. And you give it to these young kids, and boy, can Tyler Hero shoot that ball. And boy, can he rebound as well. I mean, he has been playing out of his mind. I think all these Heat players have been playing out of their mind. Bam Adebayo has been great down low. Obviously, the block on Tatum in game 1. So I do see them closing the series out, but I do think it goes to 6 or 7. I do think Boston does square the series at some point. I don't know about the whole situation of throwing stuff in the locker room. I think in some cases that helps the team. Sometimes it doesn't, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you can't doubt out the Celtics with the roster they have and how Marcus Smart, all NBA defensive first team. Jason Tatum is still only 22 years old, but he's not playing like it. So I still see Boston probably maybe winning this series in 7 games, but I mean, who knows with the way Miami's playing? For all you know, Miami could be sweeping them and heading to the NBA Finals.
And the thing I feel with the Heat, because this bubble atmosphere is completely different than anything we've seen in the NBA. And what you really need right now is a complete team. And the Heat have every aspect. They have the star presence in Jimmy Butler, who can put together a big game and score a lot of points. You've got the big man in Bam Adebayo, who has become an all-star and suddenly now is one of the best big men in the NBA in just his second season. You mentioned Tyler Hero. He has been so solid as a rookie. Also, we didn't even mention him, Duncan Robinson, shooting the three has, his stroke is so smooth. I mentioned how you've got three guys who have a lot of experience playing in the postseason before, in Goran Dragic, Crowder, and now I'm blanking on the third. Oh, Iguodala. So, those are three guys, especially Iguodala, who's been a Finals MVP before. These are guys that have experience, so that balance, plus you have a good coach who's coached in these situations before in Spoelstra, and of course Pat Riley, who's been part of these situations for 3+ decades, that altogether they've got a nice mix. Now let's just see if they can carry it out. We know how talented the Celtics are with Tatum and Brown, in addition to a great coach in Brad Stevens. Down 2-0, let's see if they can come back and make this a series. Shifting over to baseball to wrap things up. Rahil, I know you're a Yankees fan, and, it was bad for a while, but, man, you guys really stepped up. 19 home runs against Buffalo, or whatever we want to call them. But, 19 home runs. Luke Voigt is now leading the majors in homers. Stanton, Judge, Losega, they're all back now. It's really shaping up for the Yankees to try to make a good postseason run.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air. It's a sense of relief for all Yankees fans, Eddie. In the group chat how passionate we get. But yeah, it's good to see the bats are finally starting to come alive. The starting pitching has been great as of late. I've been saying, give Garrett Cole some time. You can't just come into a new season and a new team and expect him to throw 99, 100 miles an hour, shutting people down like he did in Houston. You struggled in Houston to start. So now you're starting to see that Garrett Cole that we all remember from last year. The last two starts for him have been great. Stanton and Judge are back in the lineup. So that's great. Give them some time to get the bats rolling. But as of now, DJ LeMahieu has picked it up once again. Luke Voigt is continuing to bash the ball out. Higashioka had 3 home runs last night, so I don't know really what to say. But, the amount of runs that they have scored in this series, they scored against the Blue Jays, is probably not going to happen again. But they have a easy closeout schedule because they got Boston next in this series, and they haven't lost to Boston all season long, so it's good. And hopefully they can put some pressure on the Rays for the off chance that they can somehow sneak back in and win the American League East.
Only 4 teams so far have clinched playoff spots out of the 16 available spots. Just Dodgers and San Diego in the NL, and Tampa and the White Sox in the American League. The Cubs are about to clinch as well, and that brings me to my last question of the day. The Cubs and the White Sox, both going to be in the postseason for the first time in many years. Which team do you see going further this year?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think maybe based off experience, I'd maybe go with the Cubs, but I'm honestly, Eddie, I'm really not sure about who can go deeper. I think the Cubs, because the Cubs do have more experience. They won it in 2016. So for that reason, I'll go with the Cubs, but I think it can go either way, honestly, at this point, because the White Sox have been playing unbelievable lately.
I think I'd give it to the Cubs because their manager, David Ross, has played in the World Series with this team and has worked with this specific group of guys and was able to get far enough to win the World Series. The White Sox, my other concern, I know it's been pretty good this year, but their pitching staff does not have many veteran presences, and I wonder how like a Lucas Giolito is going to hold up in a big playoff spot against the Yankees or the Rays or Cleveland. Whereas the Cubs, you've got John Lester, Kyle Hendricks, Quintana, Yu Darvish, and Alec Mills. That is quite the rotation. So they're still in a good spot.
Yeah, Eddie, a couple of them have pitched. They pretty much most of them have pitched in the World Series before. So that definitely helps them in that aspect as well.
Yeah, 3 of those 5 all pitched in the World Series back in 2016. So wrapping things up here, me and Tim always do our weekly pick'em. Tim sent me his 3 games that he's picking for week 2 of the NFL. He's got Tampa Bay beating the Panthers, so Tom Brady with a bounce back in Carolina. Cardinals will beat the Washington football team. Kyler Murray looked really good in week 1, taking out the defending NFC champs. And then pretty easy one, he's got Mahomes and the Chiefs moving to 2-0 over the Los Angeles Chargers. My 3 games, I don't have much faith in the AFC East this week. San Francisco 49ers, I think they'll bounce back against the Jets. That's my first pick because, first of all, the Jets got news, no Jamison Crowder on Sunday. And that he was responsible for almost all their yards against Buffalo. And if they cannot get the run game going, which they probably won't because of the 49ers defense, I don't see how they score without a top target for Darnold to throw to. So I'm going with the 49ers for my first pick. Second one, I know we talked about those concerns with the Cowboys and with the injuries with Van Der Esch, who's just always hurt. But Elliott did look good week 1. I know they're going to be motivated after that loss to the Rams, and with everything, with Dak Prescott and the whole Skip Bayless thing from a few days ago, I think he's going to be motivated to prove that he can lead this team, and I think they're going to get to 1-1. So my second pick, they're going to beat the Falcons. I know Atlanta's got the talented roster and with Ryan and Jones, but their defense is going to get exploited, I think, by Ezekiel Elliott. And third game, this is a little bit of a tough one. Even though there's going to be no 12th man in Seattle, I think Sunday Night Football, Russell Wilson will lead the Seahawks to victory over the Patriots. Cam Newton will suffer his first loss. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think late in the game, the Seahawks will be able to prevail. So those are my 3 picks. Rahil, since you're here, you might as well just give me a couple picks of games that you have some confidence in for winners on Sunday.
Okay, yeah. I've also got the 49ers over the Jets. I think this will be an easy victory for San Francisco. No, I mean, the Jets I think they picked up 1 first down against the Bills defense. So what are you going to do when San Francisco comes in with that rush defense? So that's my first one. The second one, I've also gone with the Seahawks over the Patriots. Now I think this will be a tough game. This is going to really prove how informed Cam Newton is. This is going to be I'd say, the Dolphins last week were kind of a warm-up. So this is going to be a real indication at where Cam Newton is in the offense and whether we can truly start to believe in this Patriots team. And the third one, I've got the Steelers over the Broncos. That Steelers defense is stifling, and boy, it is scary. As a Giants fan, I watched it week 1, holding Saquon Barkley to 7 rushing yards. Denver has got a good and young squad, but no Von Miller. So for that reason, I'll pick Pittsburgh to advance to 2-0 on the season.
Yeah, that should be a good game. Pittsburgh and Denver, 2 teams that, you don't really think about the talent on the roster, but are highly favored and both played well on Monday night. I know Denver lost to Tennessee, but overall put up a good fight, and Drew Lock looked solid. So lots on the docket this weekend in sports. Stanley Cup Finals kickoff, NBA Series Lakers and Nuggets. Baseball, 10 days left in the season. NFL Week 2, NASCAR at Bristol, and the Golf U.S. Open. So much to watch. It'll be fun. Tim will be back next Friday. We'll be recapping the weekend sports and looking at the weekend ahead and giving our picks for Week 3. Raheel, thanks for coming on today.
Anytime, Eddie.
All right, so we hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday. I'm Eddie Kalegi. This is Sports Speak.